The first time I made fresh pasta, I rolled it so thick that it was still chewy after 18 minutes of boiling. I still served it to my family, and they said it was great. Those liars. In her Essentials of Classic Italian Cooking, Marcella Hazan devoted no fewer than 6 pages to the classic rolling pin pasta technique perfected in the Emilia-Romagna region of Italy. Employing rolling pins that can measure over 50 inches, Italians in this part of the country developed a series of rolling and stretching movements that elegantly transform a ball of pasta dough into a thin, delicate sheet. Now, Hazan is the first to admit that this traditional technique must be exhaustively practiced, quote unquote, until the motions are performed through intuition rather than deliberation. How much practice, you ask? Well, according to Ada of Ferrara, Italy, 2 to 3 years. Now, I'm definitely gonna work on it, I promise. But in the meantime, maybe it's just better to see Ada do it herself. Today, I am beyond excited to take you into Ada's home with the help of Vicky Benison, the force behind one of my favorite YouTube channels, Pasta Grannies. Vicky started Pasta Grannies with a singular goal: preserve the quickly disappearing traditions and recipes of Italy's elite pasta makers. Let's go to Italy! Yeah, so I'm actually gonna stay here for this one. Yeah, it turns out I sort of blew my budget for the season on peanut butter cups for that peanut butter episode. Was it worth it? Hi Vicky, I'm so excited to talk to you. Now tell us where we are and what we're gonna be doing.
Today I'm in Emilia-Romagna and we're visiting Ada. She's an expert pasta maker called a Sfolina, and she's famous for making pasta sheets about this big. I mean, they're huge. And she's going to share with us how to make Cappellacci with pumpkin. Lovely, big, stuffed ravioli. And you're going to love how she does it.
Awesome, let's do it. Now, I was super curious how long Ada had been making pasta this way. She said forever, which is basically true.
Faccio la pasta da una vita praticamente. Avendo 82 anni, diciamo che faccio la pasta da 70 anni. Ci vuole un po' di tempo, è l'esperienza che aiuta, non è come guidare una macchina, per dire. Siamo persone e quindi con l'esperienza si impara e ci vuole 2-3 anni. 2-3 anni si riesce, se uno ha passione. Se uno non ha la passione non impara mai.
Quanti anni ci metterà lui a imparare allora, a questa età?
Alla sua età impara lo stesso. Poi 2-3 anni, se lei ha passione 2-3 anni ci vogliono per imparare a stendere veramente bene la pasta.
The fact that she thinks that I can learn it that quickly is truly a huge vote of confidence. Okay, let's learn more about her recipe. Ada uses 1 egg for every 100 grams of flour. She often makes batches using 12 to 14 eggs, but today she's making a small batch just to show me, and that's 3 eggs. She uses half durum wheat and half doppio zero, and she measures it all by eye. Now, I was curious why she used the mix of flours. She told me that it produces a firmer dough than using doppio zero alone, and that leads to a pasta with more texture. When she starts kneading, she's looking for the texture to be just right, not too sticky, soft, or hard. Vicky explains that she's talking with the dough and asking questions. I love that.
La consistenza, prima di tutto, deve essere una cosa giusta, non troppo tenera, non troppo soda, cosa giusta per poterla tirare, perché se è troppo tenera si appiccica il mattarello e non si fa una bella cosa. Se è troppo dura anche si fa fatica, non si riesce a farla sottile perché la pasta si secca facilmente essendo molto grossa e quindi anche quello non va bene, insomma bisogna sapere dosare un po'.
Okay, so now it is time to roll, and Ada pulls out a very long rolling pin. She says this rolling pin is 100 centimeters, but she actually considers it small. She routinely uses one that is 130 centimeters, over 50 inches in length. But the one she is using today is no less special. It's made from hard cherry wood and was given to her as a present. It is over 100 years old. I mean, that's like older than I am. From here, Ada makes a series of fluid, seemingly effortless motions to roll and stretch the dough. When she hangs the dough over the side of the table, it gives her access to the other parts of the dough and helps the dough that is hanging to stretch out. Once Ada can see the cloth through the dough, she deems it done. She folds it into ribbons to cut it on a special board. Ada is making one of her favorite filled pastas for us, Cappellacci. She likes it because while it's beautiful and intricate, it's bigger than tortellini, and so a bit quicker to prepare. She's stuffing her Cappellacci with a local squash. She makes it a touch sweet, and she serves it in a pork sausage sugo.
Nel centro si mette l'impasto e poi si prendono i due lembi alle estremità, si cerca di attaccarli bene bene e poi attorno al dito e si fa così. Ed ecco il cappellaccio.
During our time together, I asked Ada how she felt about being a YouTube star, as she's appeared in more than one episode of Pasta Grannies.
Non sono una star, per carità. No, le faccio volentieri e vado sempre a fare le gare, anche lì sono soddisfazioni, perché modestia a parte quasi sempre arrivo prima e quindi io che sono vecchia sono belle soddisfazioni, ecco. Sono una delle poche soddisfazioni che può avere una vecchia.
After just a few minutes of cooking, Ada transfers her perfect Cappellacci to a serving bowl and stirs in some sugo. That way it'll cling to the pasta. The only thing left to do is eat. While chatting, I learned that Ada's mother died when she was just 7, so she's entirely self-taught. I was amazed.
Ho imparato da sola perché non avevo neanche mia mamma quando ero piccola e la passione mi ha fatto imparare.
I tell her that I probably do need a teacher, and she said I can come stay with her and we'll make pasta every day together. So I guess this is my way of saying this is the last episode of the show. I'm moving to Italy to make pasta, baby. Let's get this camera stuff out of the way. You guys say, I'm out of here.
Jen, lock it.
Hi, everyone. I was totally kidding about leaving for Italy right away. I'm gonna stay right here, and I will definitely not try something like that again. Now, if you're anything like me, you feel inspired right now to make some fresh pasta. So we'll go there in a second, but first, a little basic fresh pasta science. All pastas rely on the interplay of flour and water. As we learned in the movie Gremlins, adding water to something can have a serious impact. Now sure, in the case of flour, we don't end up with a movie theater full of monsters smoking cigarettes, shooting guns, and eating popcorn. But we do get the creation of gluten. 2 proteins present in flour are able to form gluten once wetted. Now I hear some of you saying, but Dan, Ada didn't add any water to her dough. And it's true, she didn't add straight water. It all comes from the eggs. Egg white is about 90% water. And while we always talk about the richness of an egg yolk, it's actually made up of 50% water. So in fresh pasta dough, we have plenty of gluten development. The gluten forms a network that helps hold the pasta together and provides a resilient chew. But eggs don't just bring water to the party. They also bring their own proteins, which provide delicate springiness when cooked, and fat, which tenderizes the pasta. That all adds up to the difference between commercial dry pastas made of just semolina and water and egg pastas. The former are all about uninhibited gluten, which means extra chew and resiliency, whereas egg pastas offer a more delicate, springy chew. Both are incredible and suited to different applications. Dried pasta is key for classics like cacio e pepe that rely on significant agitation to form a silky emulsified sauce. They provide starch for the sauce and then stand up to the treatment while providing a distinct al dente texture. Fresh pastas would break apart in that kind of preparation, but they shine incredibly bright under lighter, more delicate sauces. Think tomato sauces, butter sauces, and lighter cream sauces. Wow, science sure makes me hungry. Let's go to the kitchen. When it comes to making fresh pasta at home, most cooks reach for a pasta roller, either a manual one like this or a stand mixer attachment like this. Both are really helpful for those of us who aren't in Ada's league, but not everyone keeps one around. I've always wanted a formula that produced a dough soft and supple enough that I could roll it out by hand with just a standard rolling pin. I also wanted to be able to reach for regular old all-purpose flour, in case folks can't source doppio zero. Using some of our fresh pasta science know-how, we can do just that. First up, let's look at the flours that Ada used in dough form. This is a dough made entirely of doppio zero, which is a very finely milled flour used primarily for fresh pasta and pizza doughs. This dough is super soft and supple. This one here is made entirely of semolina, which is flour ground from durum wheat. This dough is very dense and firm. Now here's a dough made with all-purpose flour. It's much closer to doppio zero, but a tad firmer. But that's okay, because we have a plan. Our Cook's Illustrated formula starts with 2 cups of all-purpose flour and 2 eggs. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 egg yolks. If that sounds like a lot of yolks, it's not. What I mean is, it's not in the scope of Italian pasta making. There's a famous fresh pasta from the Piemonte region of Italy that contains 40 yolks for every kilogram of flour. That works out to more than 1 yolk per ounce of flour. Okay, so here's what's going on with high yolk doughs. Yes, as we've talked about, yolks provide some water, but they also contain 30% fat. All of these additional yolks help keep gluten formation in check and keep the dough softer and more malleable. Even more important, they add rich, decadent luxuriousness and deep yellow color. I'm using a food processor here, but this dough can absolutely be mixed by hand the way Ada does hers. I'm going to process my flour, eggs and yolks, and 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, which adds flavor and also leads to a softer, more rollable dough. When I pinch the mixture, it should hold together nicely. If not, I can adjust with either flour or water until it does. Then we turn it out onto the counter, knead it until smooth, and then wrap it up and let it sit for at least an hour or up to 4 hours. During this extended rest, the gluten we formed during mixing and kneading will have time to relax, making rolling a lot easier. With glutinous doughs, we often talk about elasticity. Elasticity is a measure of a dough's ability to return to its normal shape after being stretched. As you can see, before resting, our dough is significantly more elastic. It wants to return to its original shape when poked or stretched. But check this out. After a 4-hour rest, it's far less elastic. It doesn't even hold its original shape or spring back when poked. This dough will be much easier to roll out. Speaking of rolling, here's how we're gonna do that. I cut the dough into 6 equal pieces and work with 1 piece at a time, keeping the remaining pieces covered so they don't dry out. I'll dust lightly with flour and press the dough into a 3-inch square. Now using a standard heavy rolling pin, I'll roll it out to a 6-inch square. Then I start at the center of the square and roll the dough away from me in 1 motion. I then return the rolling pin to the center of the dough and roll towards me in 1 motion. And that's it. I just repeat these 2 steps until it measures roughly 20 inches long and 6 inches wide. I frequently lift the dough to release it from the board and only flour when absolutely necessary. The tackiness between the pasta and the board really helps it from springing back. Of course, if you have a pasta roller, you can absolutely use it here. I have some tips on doing so. Start on the widest setting and run it through twice. That second run is to counteract any elastic spring that brings the dough back to its original shape. Then step to the next level and repeat. Keep going until the dough is the desired thickness. The key to creating a sheet of pasta that is the full width of the machine is to press out the dough first and then feed it through long side first. At this point, I like to let the pasta sheet air dry for about 15 minutes. That wicks away a little moisture from the surface so that when I fold the pasta up like this to cut strands, it doesn't stick together or require tons of excess flour. At this point, the world is our pasta oyster, which actually sounds pretty good. We can slice thin for fettuccine, much wider for pappardelle, and in the middle, we'd have tagliatelle. You can also use the full sheet immediately, no drying needed, to make simple shapes like farfalle and garganelli, or to make lasagna and filled pastas. One of my favorite ways to cut fresh pasta is with a chitarra. I first learned to use a chitarra from my very first chef, Dante Di Magistris. We'll lay a thick pasta sheet on the strings of the chitarra and use a rolling pin to press it into the wires, which cuts the pasta into hearty spaghetti. It's time to cook. We'll do 4 quarts of boiling water in a Dutch oven. We add salt in our pasta and cook for not a very long time. Dry pasta often cooks in the 10-minute range, but that's because it needs that time to hydrate. Our fresh pasta has plenty of moisture already. So we're really just gelling the starch in the flour and setting the proteins in the eggs. As for sauces, fresh pasta deserves to be treated gently and to be the star of the dish. It's particularly lovely in a simple tomato sauce. I love it with butter and cheese. And if I want to go a little more involved, I'll serve it in a classic dish with cream, prosciutto, and peas. Now, whether you have a non-stop flight from Boston's Logan Airport to Bologna that leaves at 8:15 so that you can cook with Ada for at least 2 years and hopefully a lot longer, or you've chosen to make this really forgiving, easy roll dough, this is definitely how to eat fresh pasta. I want to extend a huge thank you to Vicki Bennison and Ada for inviting us in to witness a true master at work. Now, Vicki's got a new book out, Pasta Grannies, Comfort Cooking, so do whatever you have to do to get your copy. Vicki's work is keeping rich traditions alive, so please check out and subscribe to the Pasta Grannies YouTube channel. It's linked below. I've learned so much from it, and I hope you do as well. Until next time, grazie mille e arrivederci.